Okay, this is part two of my little chat with Drew, and in this one we talk about the factory and his tour and his thoughts on that process.
But
Okay, so you got to go in and see some of the factory as well, and
yes,
I watched your video, great video, by the
thank
way.
you.
It looked kind of like a display, like they would set up
Yes,
for like to look for investors and stuff. It wasn't really a
right,
factory. Um,
right.
from what I could tell, like, and were there like other people that were off camera there working? Like, did you see engineers and stuff off working in the background? Because
Yes.
like in your video, there was like basically you guys and
Yeah.
no one else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should reiterate, and I probably could have done a better job explaining that in the video. There was just so many details I was trying to stitch together. I didn't think to include this. But as I should have mentioned, the reason they were free, the reason we got this up close look is because they were telling me most of the company right now is in Italy. They were like,
Uh,
most of the people working on the manufacturing line were working with CPC, focusing on those giant carbon fiber parts. They said that's what all their attention is on. And because everybody's kind of gone right now, like Steve Fambro wasn't there, and so many other people that would normally be working there were all out working in Italy with CPC. They said that's why we can open the doors and show you around. That's why we have free time to talk to nobodies like me
mhm.
with our cameras. And can I bring my wife along? Can she ask questions?
Uh-huh.
That's like if they were actually operational and there were a ton of people working in there and stuff was moving around, you wouldn't have seen it. We wouldn't have got videos of that, right? Because they'd
Uh-huh.
be busy and they'd be like hands-on working on stuff.
Uh-huh.
So they reiterated to me that a lot of the company is out of town right now. And I did see some people working on like control boards. They were
Mhm.
doing like kind of logic board soldering stuff, but obviously they were working and they looked focused. So I didn't want to like knock them on the shoulder. Hey, talk to me. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just along for the ride. I'm happy to see whatever you want to show me. But there were some stuff that they asked me not to film. They said this is
Yeah.
kind of proprietary stuff, and
Hmm.
we'll announce that at the right time, but we don't want to announce it through your tiny YouTube channel or whatever. So I was like,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Uh-huh.
I was not even expecting to get the tour, so I was just grateful to be there. But yeah, the off the record conversations were very, very uplifting and
Hmm.
positive. So I was happy to hear how things were going. Um, Outside of that, we actually had a lot of discussions and a lot of up close looks at the user interface
Uh-huh.
that they said, don't like
Yeah.
get close-ups of this, just it's okay in the background.
Uh-huh.
But that was actually the most exciting part to me because I'm a big software guy.
Uh-huh.
Like the main reason I have a Tesla is not for performance. I got the slowest Tesla possible, but I just was mainly into efficiency, but also I love good software. And for a long time, I've been saying on my channel, like probably the weakest point of Aptera is that, they're a small company and they don't have a lot of expense for software.
Hmm.
But after seeing what I did at the factory, I was like, oh, dang, they've got very, very talented software engineers that are making some incredible stuff that I was like, can I share this, please?
Hmm.
It looked really cool. And it made me rethink the way Tesla even does their software. So
Oh,
now
okay.
I feel like my Model 3 doesn't have what I'm looking for. So they
Ah,
really just made me more jealous of what I don't have.
I see.
Um, but they said, yeah, it'll come. We'll announce that formally later. But there
Yeah.
was there was a lot more software guys working there than assembly line guys. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, it was because a lot of people were out of town. That's why we were able to go,
I
essentially.
see. I see. Hey, so if any of this stuff is stuff that they told you not to talk about, just say like we can't talk
Sure.
about that. And yeah, I know
Yeah, yeah.
I hear what you're saying is like a lot of the off the record stuff is the best stuff
Yeah.
that
You understand why it's off the record.
yeah, yeah.
I'm sure
It's
you've had those talks
yeah,
too.
like like whenever I was interviewing Chris Anthony and stuff, we always chat for a little bit after we're done, and like that's
That's
like kind of the
awesome.
best part of the whole thing. And I was
Right.
like, I wish I could
It
record that and
kills
like
me
tell
inside. It
everyone,
always
yeah,
kills me
because I'm like,
when they
hey,
say stuff and you're like, ah,
and
only
I
they could
get the
hear.
you get the impression like when they're off camera they're kind of more relaxed and stuff when they know
Yeah,
they're not
yeah.
being recorded, and I get the impression like, hey, these are like really smart guys that like know what they're
Yes.
doing, and that's kind of the
Yes.
impression I get from them. Um,
And they have to be very careful with the SEC, with as many investors as they're dealing with.
yeah.
I should preface all of my don't talk about this is all just out of politeness. I have
Uh,
not signed anything.
yeah.
I have no NDAs. I have no contracts. And
Right.
also, uh, I haven't invested at this
Oh,
time. I'm not
you,
an investor.
oh, you're not an
So
investor. Yeah.
I've I've debated how many angles I want to come at that
Uh,
between accelerator versus not versus I want to figure out a way to basically be the first guy to get the 1,000 mile variant.
oh,
But
right.
I don't know if I've talked them into it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I offered many times. I kept dropping him. When you're ready for range testing, let me know.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
come down.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to get involved in some way, but
Uh,
a lot of people are like, "Oh, Drew's just so positive because he's invested," and I
yeah.
just want to say, "Nope,
Yeah. Yeah.
not
Well,
yet."
yeah. I think I've told people like I'm invested, but it's an amount that like it doesn't matter to me. Like if I
Right.
lose it, it's fine. And I honestly think like obviously we should preface this. We're not financial investment professionals. Do not take
Absolutely.
financial advice from us. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Also, I've told people on my channel multiple times I'm like the worst track record of financial investments ever. I sold Apple after they made their first the first iPod, with the wheel.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so they made that, and
Oh
and
man.
then I sold after that because I was like, these guys have no more good ideas left. They're done. That iPod was their last good idea. Okay, I'm like,
Oh
I'm
man.
like, I doubled my money on them. I'm happy. I'm gonna get out.
Well,
I'm gonna take my
you made a
profits and
profit.
leave. Okay, obviously that was a horrible decision financially, right?
Well, I mean, give yourself some credit. Everybody knows what they should have done after the fact.
Oh yeah,
If
obviously.
we knew the future,
Uh-huh.
everybody would have poured their life savings in GameStop right
Oh
before
right,
the big
exactly.
squeeze. It like
Oh, did you watch that
anyone
movie? It was a
can
pretty
look
good
at the
movie,
stock
actually.
market. Oh, about
About the
GameStop?
GameStop. There's a movie
Oh,
about
I
the
heard about that.
GameStop short. It was called Dumb Money. It's actually a
Oh,
good
I did
movie.
see the trailer for it.
Yeah, you should
What's
check it
it
out.
on? Where
It's
did you
actually
see it?
it's a pretty good movie. I
Did you
forget
see
what.
it in the theater?
Yeah. We saw it in the theater. Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was
I
good.
gotta remember. I
Yeah.
haven't been to the theater in so long. Anyway, that's cool.
Anyways, yeah. So, anyways, I'm invested, but it's a small amount. So it's not gonna like it. I'm not. I'm biased because I like it, not biased because I'm an investor. Like I'm not
You're
like it's
very
not like a
honest. I
pump and dump
appreciate that.
scheme or anything because like that's not going to make any impact on my life of what I
Especially
do.
because it's not like publicly traded, so you can't,
Exactly. Yeah.
which I think was smart the way they handled that.
Uh,
Because essentially, like Nikola was the example of what not to do because
mm,
they were publicly traded. So the CEO had a lot of financial incentive to pump the stock through
mm,
the news and through interviews. He
yeah.
was like, I need to convince as many people as possible to buy this stock. He even DM'd some of my friends directly
Oh
on
wow.
Instagram telling them to buy the stock. We
Wow.
have some very funny DMs from Trevor Milton, but
Wow.
which are hilarious looking at now.
Uh,
But with Aptera being semi-public, they're not motivated to pump the stock or anything because the share prices remain the same for like
yeah.
over a
Right.
year now, right? It's
Right.
still 10.50 a share.
10.50 a share. Yeah.
So
Wow.
there's not this motivation from the company like, oh, we got to put out some good story, good story. Someone's trying to tank the stock. It's like, no. I mean, Chris Anthony has talked about it. I think he's brought several companies public before. He kind of knows when it's the right time versus when it's not. And I have to argue with a lot of people online about the state of the company because there's just this, and we talked a lot about it with them too. And they follow a lot of different startups and
Mhm.
are kind of trying to take notes about what not to do. And I keep trying to remind people that there's not some like barrier of validity that gets crossed when deliveries start.
Mhm.
A lot of people seem to have that mindset of like, oh,
Okay.
well, they're not a real company. They haven't delivered a product. If they've delivered a product, that means they're legit. They're for real. They'll always be here. They exist.
Right.
It's no longer pump and dump or it's no longer a scam. It's like, nah, that still some really horrible things can happen even if you reach deliveries.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you rush into production way too fast,
Mhm.
then okay, you'll get the good headline, deliveries have begun. Okay, they delivered a product, and then you'll go bankrupt in a couple months, which we've
Mhm.
seen happen with
Right.
a few brands,
Mhm.
or a few brands are on their way to that. It's like just because you reach production and hit deliveries, that doesn't mean smooth sailing from then on out. And I think more people should acknowledge that, particularly with Aptera, because they're being as careful and as strategic as they can. They know you can't rush this. You can't jump into production too quick. Otherwise you bankrupt yourself. So I applaud the strategy.
Mm-hmm. Did you see, like, so they have this solar production line. Did
Mm-hmm.
did you see evidence that they've been producing a lot of panels, or it seemed like a demo panel? Because
Well,
what
they
I'm
didn't
thinking
have.
is, let me explain to you what I'm thinking is, like,
Sure.
they have said that they're kind of, it seems like that they're waiting for CPC to deliver them a body and a chassis to build the PI
Correct.
things. If that is the case, they should have all the other parts kind of ready to go. If that's the, if
Mm-hmm.
you know, if CPC is a rate limiting factor. So I'm just like wondering, did you see evidence of that? Like, do they have solar panels just like ready to put on the thing? Do they have battery packs, that kind of stuff?
One of the things, whoa, I'm trying to figure out how to word this. One
Okay.
of the things I was asked not to film
Uh-huh.
was basically something, it wasn't operating, but it was something that was specifically for creating and building tons and tons of solar
Okay.
cells. And they do have a separate I won't I won't say where they are or who they are, but they have a supplier picked out
Uh-huh.
for a lot of the components for the, like the new glass they've been boasting about lately. They're
Okay.
switching away from the plastic solar
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and going with this new. They let me hold it too. It was very
Yeah.
lightweight but flexible. That new glass is from a very uh important, let's say, supplier.
Yes.
And my guess is because Aptera is trying to be efficient, not just with their product, but also with their spending,
Mhm.
is that they know that the Bink and all the carbon fiber components, that's going to be the most expensive. So that's where all their investment is going towards.
Mhm.
And they could technically, yes, they could start buying up a bunch of Elafe motors or a bunch of
Mhm.
interior components or a bunch of glass pieces, but they know those are kind of like less priority because
Okay.
there's not as big a lead time basically on those. So the short answer is no, I didn't see like a giant stack of solar panels all stacked up on themselves, but
Mhm.
they definitely have a supply chain and a contract with someone prepared for that when the
Okay.
time comes. But I believe the carbon fiber giant body pieces from CPC, those are the priority now because everything else is probably cheaper.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's all the questions I had for you, Drew. Any final thoughts? Or
Oh man. I trying to I got so many questions for you.
uh
Uh maybe I should have you on here.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm like
Are
I
you
said,
still
after I visit them in January, I'm happy to talk to you afterward and
I guess
do this on your
my
channel.
big question, final thought for you is like, do you talk to people in your personal life about it as much as I do? Like, are you bringing it up all the time, uh, or do you kind of keep it under wraps because you
Um,
know it's weird?
so I told you, like, I have a day job, and I'm a teacher, and so
Oh, nice.
I don't talk about it a lot. I don't like just
Yeah,
bring it up, but
sure,
when people talk about cars and stuff, I bring it up. I'm like, oh, there's this
sure.
cool thing that's coming down, or they're like,
Yeah, yeah.
they're like asking me like, hey, so like, because I have this kind of, I ride my bike to work every day. I don't
That's
really have a
awesome.
I don't really have a car, but
I love that you do that.
yeah, when they ask me about it, I tell them about it, but I don't bring it up out of the blue. I bring it up when there's an opening. Like if I see an opening, I will bring it
Gotcha.
up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You're a
they
lot
know
more
that I'm a
polite than
fan
I
of
am.
this thing, and I've had a couple of my friends at work, my coworkers have ordered it. They've pre-ordered it. They're like, "Oh,
Oh, really?
yeah." They're like,
Oh,
"Oh,
that's
that looks
cool.
cool," and I'm like, "Yeah, like yeah, yeah. Here's the link to like order it." Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
uh,
What is, sorry, do you need to wrap up? We can wrap up if you're
no, no,
running
no,
out.
fine.
Okay. Well, my next question was going to be like, when you bring it up to people or show it to people, what's usually the first reaction? Like, what's their first impulse when they see the design?
Okay, there's two reactions basically. One is,
Okay.
okay, everyone says it's like that looks weird. And then the people that like it are like, that looks weird and cool. The people that don't like
Yeah.
it, like, that looks weird, like it's a death trap.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
I get the exact same thing. That's funny. Wow. Yeah,
Yeah, because that is, I
that's
think that's
usually
the
why when I
primary concern, especially in
Mhm.
America, where like, our roads are dominated by like three-row SUVs, like Yukons and Escalades and things like that.
Mm,
People just feel like unless I'm in this giant hunk of steel, I'm not safe. And
yeah,
of
yeah.
course, they think I'm crazy because I ride my bike on the roads, right? Like, like I'm not winning a battle with anything, right? On a bicycle. So I'm like,
Maybe
so
a
like when
cat.
I tell them it's safe, they're like, dude, your frame of reference is you're on a bicycle, okay? So anything's safer than that. But I'm like, no, it's like,
Right.
it's a shape, the shape is round and that's very strong, and it's made of a material that's very strong, and it's got these crush zones and stuff. I mean, like obviously if you get into a crash with a, Cybertruck, you're not winning that battle, but it's
Sure.
I
Yeah.
just I'm kind of hoping that we move towards a society that has more right-sized vehicles, like
Yes.
you don't need a 8,000 pound vehicle to go get like eggs from the grocery store. Okay. You don't need 8,000 pounds to carry like 1 pound of
Right.
eggs or something.
Believe it or not, yeah.
Yeah.
Such an idea. Yeah, I try to bring that up a lot whenever I bring up to people before they've even seen it. I usually say, the trick with making a solar powered electric vehicle is to make it very aerodynamic and efficient while also keeping it safe. So there's a lot of precautions and design schemes they put into it to ensure safety and a good crumple zone and side impact protection while still looking bizarre, because obviously everybody looks at it and just is like, I've never seen anything like that. But yeah, and I also tend to bring up, like, my uncle actually got to tag along. I was very surprised by that. Like,
Mhm.
morning of, I was like, hey, my uncle, who's an engineer, I was like, he's kind of interested in this stuff too. But what my uncle always brings up is he's concerned about the grid and all these EVs pulling way more energy than
Yeah.
we've ever pulled from the grid before. So I said, well, hey, here's a EV that would barely touch the grid. Even when it does, it's going to pull so much less compared to a traditional EV.
Mhm.
So you might be interested in this kind of thing. So he said, well, can I come with you? Can I
Uh-huh.
look around too?
Uh-huh.
And I was like, let me check. And I asked, and they were like, of course, bring him over. So
Uh-huh.
they were surprisingly accommodating. And he even asked
And
if
what
you
what
could,
did
he
he
didn't
think
want to
of the
be
whole
in the
thing?
video. Oh, I think he was pleasantly surprised.
Uh-huh.
He's a tall guy. He's like 6'3", and he sat in
Uh-huh.
the passenger seat. It reminded him of his old sports cars he grew up with. And Chris McCannon actually got to floor it with him in it, so he got to experience the
Okay.
acceleration and all that. So he was. I don't know if it convinced him necessarily to order one yet,
Uh-huh.
but um, he was a lot more interested after that,
All right.
knowing that they were, because he basically lives close by, which is
Okay, yeah.
why I was like, I'll come down. And they were like, you want to fly? And I'm like, no, I'm just going to stay with my uncle and
Uh-huh.
visit, just drive down the street, basically. So
Uh-huh.
they that's kind of worked out well, so that if there is something in the future,
Right.
I can go down and crash there and just drive over. So
Right.
it's pretty far from where I live. You're quite a bit closer, but
Uh-huh.
I don't know. One of these days, I don't want to steal your thunder or anything, but I'd still love to go together at some point so we can both meet them in person and
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe sometime
ask
next year
questions.
when they have several of these things built and go
Yeah,
around, we
yeah.
can coordinate something.
I
All
feel
right.
like we probably have a lot of shared audiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I will link your channel in the description below so I'm sure
Oh,
everyone
thank
who
you.
watches my channel knows about you. Your channel's like, way bigger than ours.
They're probably
Um
sick of me. I love your I love your videos that aren't about Aptera too, by the way.
uh-huh.
I question if you feel like you have to talk about Aptera, because the videos you've done about, like, I was repeating all the backstory on lawns
Oh
that you
yeah.
told that one year on
Yeah.
how it was meant as a flex to show how much useless land you have, and
Yes.
that totally changed my perspective on yards and lawns and stuff. So I was
Uh-huh.
telling my family's like, okay, Drew, we get it. Shut up. And I was like, no, it's really a waste of water and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Good stuff.
I have very different views about lots of things, so
Well, you're just so good at explaining it. Like,
uh-huh.
I don't know. You pitch it in a way that it's hard to argue against. So that's how you just convince someone that to change their way of thinking. I feel like
Well, thank you.
talking about energy independence in different countries and stuff like that. It's awesome.
Thank you very much. All right. Well, again, thanks a lot, Drew, for talking to us and kind of getting, get kind of a first person perspective, like vicariously we visited them through you. And so I appreciate that.
No problem. Anytime.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks. And we'll talk later.
Bye-bye.
Okay. I wanted to thank Drew again for taking his time to talk to us. Super nice guy, really fun to talk to. I think if I didn't have a bunch of work to do later on that night, we could have talked for 2-3 hours about stuff. So hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.